the adults' motivations aside, at least for us kids, these were supposed to be a fun couple of days where we cousins deepened our friendship. However, when we woke up, there was an unbelievably cruel reality waiting for us. Jojo and Jessica were crying over Shannon-chan and Kana-kun's deaths. Right now, everyone who was alive was gathered in the lobby of the first floor of the guest house. And there were 12 of us. Unbelievable, right? There were 18 up until yesterday, and in one night, a third of them never had lost their lives. My agitation had finally settled down, and along with my lack of sleep from being woken up so early in the morning, I was beginning to feel like this was just a little unreal. I want to think this is some kind of bad dream. My cheap escapism kept telling me that was true over and over. Maria had gone back to sleep on the sofa Auntie Rosa was sitting in. Rather than her having nerves of steel, she probably genuinely hadn't had enough sleep. The adults were grasping members of grandfather's collection of short barrel rifles. This is getting out of hand. Now there's more of them. Apparently a remnant from the period when he was obsessed by westerns. There were 4 identical guns altogether. 4 guns. They had been split up between the 4 siblings. Uncle Kraus, Auntie Eva, my dad, and Auntie Rosa. Paper boxes filled with bullets lay on the table, and the siblings were suddenly loading their guns.
なんだか怖え。こいつに触ってると、今でも親父に触るなって怒鳴られて、ぶん殴られるような気がするぜ。
ならよかったな。いくら触っても、もう殴られることはない。
信じられないわ。あのお父様がこんな最後を迎えるなんて。
金蔵さんに限って普通に床で亡くなるようなことはないだろうと思っていましたが、それにしてもむごすぎる。
ねえ、あれは本当にお父様なのかしら。私は別人の死体でごまかした替え玉を疑ってるんだけど。
いいえ、あれは間違いなくお父様です。足の指をご覧になったでしょう。世間広しといえど、両足の指が6本の人間はそうはいませんよ。
でもいないとも言えない。多子症は珍しくない病気だと聞いたわ。
True. I do remember bringing up this idea that just because Kinzo was the only one around here with polydactyly doesn't mean that our killer couldn't have used the body of a different dead person who also had 6 toes. There is also that possibility.
大仕掛けの大好きな方なんでしょ。どこかで両足の指の数が自分と同じな遺体を手配したかもしれないわ。
バカバカしい。そんなこと何のためにするというのですか。
普通の人にならわしもそう言うわ。しかしあのお父さんや桐江さんの話も全くの口頭無形とは言い切れんのやないか。
焼死体は妹の確認が難しいという。だが歯型とか骨格とかいろいろ調べる方法はあるはずさ。
True. If it's not possible to check fingerprints, then teeth are the next best thing. But even so, that is definitely impossible in our current state.
警察が調べれば一発で身元なんかわかるに決まってる。
I guess.
問題は 警察より先に電話技師が必要だという点だがね。
この台風じゃ船は来られないでしょうね。なら明日になるのかしら。
おそらく明日の9時にもう一度船が来てくれるでしょう。そこで警察に連絡できると思います。
私たちも、そして犯人も、つまりは台風が通り過ぎるまでこの島に閉じ込められたってわけね。
Just from our parents' conversation, you could probably figure out the general gist, but let's explain the situation anyway. First, early that morning, in various places throughout the mansion, a total of 6 corpses of grandfather and all the servants had been found one after another. Let's check a bunch of stuff here. Yeah, indeed. Kinzo, discovered as a burned corpse from the incinerator in the underground boiler room. As there were no signs that he fought to get out of the incinerator, it seems reasonable to think that he was burned after he was murdered. Burned after he was murdered. Too bad this time. Game over right at the very start. Corpse discovered in the 2nd floor VIP room. Okay. The murder weapon is assumed to be a gun or a spear-shaped object. In appreciation for his many years of service, Genji shall be permitted to sleep in the VIP room. Gun or spear-shaped object. Wound on the neck / face. Corpse discovered in the parlor on the 1st floor. The murder weapon is assumed to be a gun or spear-shaped object. For Shannon, the parlor, whose view of the rose garden was beautiful on sunnier days. Wound on the chest area. The chapel for Kano. Even after death, keep on protecting the place important to the Lord. Wound on the stomach area / chest area. Discovered in the 3rd floor servants' quarters. Wound on the neck / face area. He wanted to gain Kinzo's favor. The room next to the study is appropriate for him. Okay, so the servants' quarters is near Kinzo's study. And Kumasawa, discovered in the 2nd floor guest room. The seldom used guest room on the 2nd floor was her secret napping spot. Wound on the chest area. Virginia, retired Endless Witch in Beatrice's master, made proper use of the endless magic and dedicated her life to the happiness and smiles of people. Taught Beatrice the endless magic, and retired believing that Beatrice would devote herself to people in the same way. As well as being Beatrice's master, she was also the consulting mage of Beatrice's old home. For this reason, Virgilia interacted with her in the manner of a servant. It is said that this was responsible for causing Beatrice's egotism and excesses. Not entirely responsible, but it can be partially a reason for it. Actually, there is one more thing that I want to check. Let me see. Merud. This word is probably related to a fictional unit of length from Nausicaa, the Valley of the Wind. Wow. Which seems to be about 1 meter long. Nausicaa, the Valley of the Wind. The Studio Ghibli. I watched that movie a while ago. Wow. So it's a reference from that. Very interesting. First, grandfather had been fed to the flames in the boiler room and was completely burned. The servants were found dead, each locked in one of the various rooms throughout the mansion onto which magic circles had been drawn. The cause of death for the servants was uncertain, but according to Dr. Nanjo's diagnosis, there was a high likelihood that they had been stabbed by something like a spear, or possibly shot by a gun. That was why the adults had started arming themselves with rifles. And what made the situation even more chaotic was that the telephone lines were out of order. It was unknown whether lightning had caused them to break down or whether the culprit had destroyed them. In any case, contact with the outside was broken off, and we couldn't contact the police. So until tomorrow morning, when the typhoon would pass and the boat would come, we would have to protect ourselves. After all, Rokkenjimon was not isolated by the typhoon. And just like how we were stuck on the island, so was the culprit. It seemed that the adults had stayed up the whole night, spending the whole time holding the family conference in the mansion's dining hall. And even so, this crime had occurred in the mansion. So right when the adults had been getting worked into a frenzy over money, the murderer had been killing under the same roof. All Nazi said that they were strict on locking the doors and windows at night, and yet some suspicious person had entered the mansion. The adults had decided that the inside of the mansion was too large to be safe, so they had pulled out the guns and moved to the guest house, where we had been. Which brings us to the present. George, Aniki and others begged to see Shannon-chan's body, but the adults refused point blank, saying that we must not until the police arrive. That wasn't just because they had sealed all the rooms to preserve the scene. After all, the culprit who had killed 6 people had wandered about that mansion. To the Ushirimiya family right now, the mansion which should have been their home was like a danger zone that an unknown murderer had entered. It makes sense. I mean, the mansion is vast. There are plenty of blind spots and dark places, and it's just too vast to guarantee absolute safety with this number of people. In contrast, the guest house is a much smaller building than the mansion. 2 stories tall. Number of rooms? About 10. Apparently, it had originally been constructed to serve as a boarding house for when the island was to be turned into a resort. So it's easy to grasp the entire structure, and easy to guarantee safety. That makes it a good place to hole up in. And there's an extremely high likelihood that this mass murder of 6 people is a game, because the culprit had proclaimed that in a letter. I heard that a Western-style envelope with a family crest, just like the one Maria claimed to have received from Beatrice yesterday, had been found in the boiler room where grandfather's corpse had been discovered. And this is what the letter said. So that there will be no misunderstandings, the game I seek is whether or not you can solve the riddle of the epitaph, not whether or not you can catch me. If you do not solve the riddle of the epitaph, the pitiful sacrifices will further increase in number. It would be more wise to spend your time solving the epitaph than searching for me. If no one can solve the riddle of the epitaph, no one will survive. If a person appears with skill enough to solve the riddle of the epitaph, I will give them all the gold of the Golden Land, the Ushirimiya family headship, and all my power. I was the one who succeeded the Ushirimiya family headship from Kinzo-sama. And I look forward to seeing who will receive the headship from me. Beatrice the Golden. And this riddle of the epitaph was that fame. Boy, Beatrice is really trying with the letter. I mean, before it was obvious, but now she's saying, hey dumbasses, you solve the epitaph and the murder will stop, so don't be a bunch of idiots this time. Like, plain as day. That strange epitaph written in the same place as the portrait of the witch, displayed in the hall of the mansion. Grandfather was the one who ordered that it be written, and the person who solved it would, supposedly, be given the family headship, or the hidden gold, or something like that. Ever since it was first displayed there several years ago, all the relatives, despite making fun of it in the open, had been secretly challenging that riddle in private. However, up until today, no one had solved it. We had once again been told to solve the unintelligible riddle, and this time, we had been threatened that if we didn't solve it, we would all be killed. If this wasn't a game, what would you call it? The bold opinion that we should search the premises for the culprit did come from us. However, there was a good chance that they were armed, and there wasn't necessarily only one of them. And while they may have been able to kill more than 6 people, they had stopped at 6. In the end, the opinion that we should avoid carelessly antagonizing the culprit and hole up in a safe place while we waited for the police to arrive won out. After the adults had carefully checked that the doors and the windows in the guest house were locked, they set up camp in the lobby, and as they fingered their guns to distract themselves from the attention, their expressions showed that they were already fatigued from this long day, which had still barely begun. There was nothing that I could do. Now, all I could do was be taught how to use a gun, to prepare for the off chance that something would happen which led to an excess of guns. And that's the way. Just obediently stay there, me and the rest of you.
また最初は6人か。しかも今回はじい様と使用人が全部まとめてときたもんだ。
おそらくあの子は前回のゲームでのあなたの指し手を慎重に研究したのでしょう。
I mean, to put it bluntly, now the humans that were the biggest suspects in the other games are now taken care of. Whether it was at random or Beatrice chose them. They were the biggest suspect, and now they're all dead. I mean, I could say that it is easy this time, since that eliminates a huge number of possibilities with too many servants, like having access to rooms and all. And, well, as far as I know, all the adults, like, minus Nanjo, like, all the adults who were in the dining hall, like, all night. And, well, as I said, that would constitute as an airtight alibi. Therefore, that would leave Nanjo and the cousins as the only remaining suspects in that case. So, one would think that it is easy. But, nah. It is never that easy. I mean, one thing right off the bat that I can put as a possibility is that all of the adults in the dining hall were responsible for the first 6 that died. So, there's also that. And there's also... I mean, there are several other possibilities, I'm sure.
そしてあなたが最初に疑うと高い確率で推定される駒を最優先で奪ったに違いありませんよ。
Basically.
筋だな。前回も前々回も。屋敷に精通し、マスターキーを持ち歩く使用人たち全員は常に最高順位で疑わしい人物だった。前回のゲームの、例えばジェシカの密室がいい例だ。使用人が犯人であることを認めさえすれば、あんなのは密室でも何でもない。
故に、あの子はそこを真っ先に切りに切った。あなたがやがて逃げ込むであろう退路を真っ先に塞ぎに来たのでしょう。
ベアトはすでに赤で、この島には19人以上いないと宣言している。
There are no more than 18 people on the island.
それはつまり諦めろってことだ。もう俺は18人の誰かを疑わざるを得ない。
あの子はその18人の駒を全て奪い切った上で、存在しないはずの19人目として降臨し、あなたに自らが魔女であることを認めさせる手で来るでしょう。魔法を見せつけることで強引に屈服させる恫喝的手法がもはや通じない以上、あの子にさせるのは成功法だけなのですから。
上等だ。もうハッタリは通用しねえぜ。
気をつけて。まやかしは魔女の最も得意とするところ。あの子が何を言おうと何を見せようと、あなたが信じる真実を決して脅かすことなどできないのです。それを忘れないで。
お、そう何度も同じ手が通用してたまるかってんだ。出てこいよ、ベアトリーチェ。
Ready as ever. Show us what you got, Beato.
おっ始めようぜ。
すでに勝負のテーブルに着席しておるわ。わらわの手番もすでに終了しておる。
マダムを敵に回すことになるとは厄介ですね、お嬢様。手の内をだいぶ読まれますよ。
構わん。お師匠様の指し手などすでに時代遅れの古典よ。恐るるに足りぬわ。あなたが私の教えた古典以上の何をさせるのか期待していますよ、ベアトリーチェ。いいのか、バトラー。魔女を否定するそなたが魔女を軍師につけても。
くだらねえ挑発は無用だ。こいつは俺の相談役、いやセコンドだ。ガチンコで殴り合うのは俺とお前だってことには何の変化もない。
分かっておる。よちよちのお前には自転車にも補助輪が必要だろう。好きにするがよい。さあ始めろ。お前の手番だ。
事件現場の再構築から始める。ワルギリア、早速頼む。
最初の遺体発見はシャノンから。屋敷内の1階客間より発見されました。
And the wound is on the chest area, which already right off the bat it tells us that something else happened than what we've actually seen.
扉と窓は施錠され、密室を構成していました。
ベアトに説明要求。密室の定義を再確認。
密室の定義は内外の出入りが一切隔絶された室内を指す。当然内外からの一切の侵入脱出はおろか干渉もできない。それは包括的に隠し扉の否定、外部干渉の余地一切の否定を含む。以後この定義をベアトリーチェの密室定義と呼称する。
細部確認。外部干渉の余地の定義とは。
外部から釣り糸やら長くて細い棒やらなどを使って直接的に干渉するあらゆる余地だ。つまり扉や窓にはそのような小細工を混ぜる隙間すらもないと判断せよ。
どうかな。仮に隙間がなくてもリモコンなどの電波は干渉できるはずだぜ。
よかろう。電波などそれに類する遠隔操作技術も干渉不可能であると定義に追加する。
So all locked up, no hidden doors or rooms, no fishing lines, rods, radio waves or anything similar to all of that. Okay.
客間には内線電話もあるぜ。それと連動した仕掛けは遠隔操作にはならねえのか。
電話はすでに使用不能だろうが。ああ、もう面倒だ。それも含めようぞ。直接間接のあらゆる方法で室外よりの密室内への干渉は不可能だ。
声やノックは密室に入らずに外部から干渉できるはずだぜ。
室であっても声をかけることやノックは不可能ではなかろう。意思疎通の可否は密室の定義に反しない。
つまり外部との伝達方法までは途絶していると定義できないんだな。
そうなります。
了解したぜ。シャノンちゃんの客間はそのベアトリーチェの密室定義を満たすってんだな。
その通りだ。
密室定義了解した。
I mean, it would be nice if all that is confirmed in red too, that it satisfies Beatrice's definition of a locker room, but in any case, let's see.
ワルキリア、続けてくれ。
はい。シャノンの遺体はマスターキー1本を所持。発見した親族がこれを回収。
ベアトに負傷要求。今回のマスターキーの本数は？
前回と同じ。各使用人が1本ずつで5本だ。
And you say that Shannon only had one master key. We do know that there is also a parlor key that can open a door, but if it was not found inside the room or in Shannon's possession, then this means easy access for our cure to go in and, like, do their thing with the key. And even so, there are other 4 master keys, so let's see.
ってことは密室にはまだならねえってわけさ。マスターキーはまだ4本余ってる。シャノンちゃんを殺害後、4本の鍵のいずれかで施錠するだけの話だ。
Or the parlor key, as far as we know.
その通りでございます。そして見つかったのはマスターキーだけではありませんよ。
はい。遺体のすぐ傍らに紋章入りの養鶏封筒が。中に手紙はなく、2階客室の鍵が入っていました。
It's a second floor guest room. Huh. That will be where Kumasawa's body was found.
2階客室の鍵。それは2階客室の扉をマスターキー以外に唯一開けることができる鍵だという定義でいいのか？
うん、問題ないぞ。そしてマスターキーと違い、その1本しかない。
つまりある特定の部屋を開けるにはマスターキー5本に加えその1本しかないというわけです。
これはつまり次は2階客室へ行けというとなると、大人たちは2階客室へ移動したな。
はい。2階客室の扉もまた施錠され、魔法陣が描かれていました。親族はシャノンの遺体脇より入手したその鍵によって開錠。室内にて熊沢の遺体を発見。室内は密室。定義はベアトリーチェの密室定義に準拠。熊沢はマスターキー1本を所持。これを親族が回収。そしてシャノン同様に遺体の傍らに養鶏封筒を発見。中には3階控え室の鍵が。
The third floor servants' quarters.
親族は3階控え室へ移動。
I mean, that is where Goda's body was found. Okay. I think I'm starting to understand what is going on here. Basically, this is how our killer wanted us to unlock the doors and find the bodies. Like, there is an order of sorts. And the adults had to follow the breadcrumbs in order to unlock each door and get, like, the respective keys. In which case... Okay. I think I can see something here. Like, our killer went the opposite way around, putting the bodies in their respective rooms and always putting the keys that were used for the previous room where they were in, like previously.
そして3階控室の扉にも魔法陣でさらに施錠されていて。
はい。室内にてゴーダの遺体を発見。室内は密室。ベアトリーチェの密室定義に準拠。ゴーダはマスターキー1本を所持。これを親族が回収。そしてこれまで同様に紋章入りの養鶏封筒を発見。中より2階貴賓室の鍵が。
So next is Genji.
親族は2階貴賓室へ移動。
なんなんだこいつは。てめえ、何を企んでやがる。
そう睨むほどのものでもあるまい。密室ではあるが、それを開けるマスターキーはまだ何本もあるではないか。律儀にマスターキー以外の固有の鍵も申請している。
気に入らねえ展開だぜ。だが展開は読めてきた。この調子で6人続いてくってわけか。
はい、その通りです。2階貴賓室にて源氏の遺体を発見。マスターキー1本を回収。地下ボイラー室の鍵を発見。地下ボイラー室へ移動。地下ボイラー室にて金蔵の遺体を発見。礼拝堂の鍵を発見。礼拝堂に移動。礼拝堂にてカノンの遺体を発見。マスターキー1本を回収。1階客間の鍵を発見。以上で6名の遺体発見の再構築を終了します。
補足です。金蔵の遺体の傍らで発見された養鶏封筒には礼拝堂の鍵と一緒に手紙が同封されておりました。手紙の内容はすでにご確認の通り、碑文の謎を解くよう改めて催促する内容です。
ってことはなんだよこれ。最後のカノン君のところに一番最初のシャノンちゃんの客間の鍵があったってことは、密室が6つ数珠つなぎになってるってことなのか。
その通り。
A giant circle of locked rooms. Huh. Very interesting.
6つの密室が数珠つなぎになっておる。
You know, as much as I kept nagging at you, Beatrice, for how all you did now was locker room murders up until this point, this feels quite creative. Not gonna lie, this feels like quite creative. I congratulate you on that one.
それぞれを解錠する鍵はそれぞれ隣り合う密室によって閉じ込められている。
This raises some questions, though. I mean, it can be pretty easy for our killer to begin this loop by killing the servants and putting them in their respective rooms, with all their keys included. But the problem is, how did our killer end the loop? Like, all the keys were inside the rooms, so how would our killer end up locking the very last room and get out if the keys were found inside? I guess that is the biggest question here. How did they manage to lock the last room?
つまり6つの密室が1つの巨大密室を形成し、その中に全てのマスターキーと固有鍵全てを閉じ込めてしまっているのだ。ちなみに6つの部屋の扉や窓はいずれも普通。オートロックのような鍵を使用せず施錠できるような仕掛けは存在しない。どうだよ、綺麗なもんだろ
ですからお嬢様、そのあたりに品がございます。
When Noby rebuked her, Battle stuck her tongue at him shamelessly.
悪い悪い。ついついバトラと遊んでると上機嫌になってしまうのでな。
Yeah, you're pretty damn proud about your locker room mystery here.
それでバトラ、お前の指し手はどうなんだよ。特に思いつかないんなら、わらわがヤギたちに遺体を運ばせて、魔法にて全ての扉を封じるところを特別に見せてやってもいいんだぜ。
好きにしろ。お前の主張する魔法説として拝聴しとく。だが俺はお前の主張とは全く異なる人間説をお前の主張に一切干渉されることなく主張することができる。それはつまりお前のざれ言に耳を貸す必要は何もないってことさ。好きに魔法の杖でも振るって七色の魔法で扉を閉めるところでも実演してろってんだ。隣でそのうちガマの油と万能包丁の実演も始まるぜ。ワルギリア、事件現場を再構築、穴を探すぜ。全員は間違いなく死亡してるのか。誰かが死んだふりしてんならこんなの3つでも何でもねえ。
True. That would solve the problem of how the very last room was locked. But I doubt it is that easy.
南條は全員の死亡を確認。ただし誤審率の否定は悪魔の証明により不可能。つまり誰かが生きているのを南條が見逃した可能性をゼロにすることはできません。
来たな、悪魔の証明か。だがそいつをぶった切る剣は存在する。
And that is the red truth, which should be Bato's next move, I'm sure.
なんだよあいつら。わらわをのけ者にして楽しそうだな。わらわは対戦者であるぞ。少しは構えというのに。
Sorry, did you say something there, Bato? I mean, I doubt it was anything useful anyway. Fuck you.
本来チェスを対戦するのにあたり相手とのコミュニケーションは不要です。お嬢様は指し手以外のコミュニケーションによって煙に巻いていった。それに惑わされないということはつまりこういうことなのでしょ
う。なぜだか納得がいかぬ。
お嬢様はチェスを挑んでいるはずではないのですか。
でもそうだが。
Beatrice puffed out her cheeks, as though saying, I don't know why, but I don't like it.
警察未介入の現場につき、人間側からの検証は限界があります。厳密な死亡確認のため、復唱要求することを推奨します。
よっしゃ、ここで叩くぜ。復唱要求だ。被害者6人は全員死亡している。
お嬢様、復唱要求が出ておりますよ。
おい、ぼんやりするな。復唱拒否か。ここからが戦闘開始だ。
おったっとったすまぬすまぬ。いいぞ、応じるぞ。金蔵、源氏、シャノン、カノン、ゴーダ、熊沢の6人は死亡している。
Alright, well, we got that. However, I guess we can also include the possibility that, well, our killer was one of the 6 dead. And the last one to lock the room, like the last room, was our killer. And they killed themselves in the process. Like a suicide case of some sorts, which I do remember from a very long time ago that I had something like that. I've dealt with something like that, a suicide case.
何をぼんやりしてるんだか。よし、
Or, if it's not one of the first 6, but someone else, the last victim was forced or, I don't know, like intentionally locked in the last room before they died from some sort of blood loss. Like, that is also a possibility depending on how the victim died, so there's also that.
まずは一つ引き出したぞ。死んだふりって王道はまず否定されたな。
もはや手加減などせぬぞ。好きなだけ来るがよい。次々斜め切りにしてくれるわ。
続けて復唱要求。6つの部屋には誰も隠れていない。
Yeah, we also need clarification on that one.
俺たちが認識していない人物の存在を否定してみせろ。
大鶴。6つの部屋には誰も隠れていない。
よし、これで6人だけの缶詰は確定だな。そして死んだふりもない。
どうするどうする。人間にはもはやどうしようもないであろうが、おとなしくわらわが素敵な魔法で鍵を自由自在にするところをひざまずいて拝見しろよ。
寝言言ってろ。さらに復唱要求だ。6人の死亡は即死である。
The 6 deaths were instant.
即死。
Ah, okay. That actually helps me with what I just said before. If the death is instant, that would mean a suicide case. I mean, if it's not instant death, then it can be that the last victim got wounded by the killer, got inside the room, and locked it themselves before finally dying. Like, we have 2 possibilities over here, as I said, and it kinda depends on how Beatrice is gonna answer this one with red.
ほう。どういう意味だ、それは。
犠牲者の一人が瀕死の状態で部屋まで逃げ延び、内側から施錠して密室を作った後、息絶えた可能性もあるということですよ。
Basically.
密室殺人の古典ですか。致命傷を与え、しばらく後に死ぬことを確実とした場合、犠牲者が殺人者から逃れるために部屋にこもり、施錠後に死亡したなら、予期せずして密室が構成されることはあり得ます。
その可能性を否定するには、赤き真実にて6人は即死であったことを宣言する必要がありますよ。
よかろうよかろう。赤き宝刀にて切り伏せよう。6人は即死であった。
Well, I guess there goes that possibility. In which case, it can still be a suicide case, and our last victim could be the murderer.
即死とはつまり、攻撃を受けて即座に行動不能になったという意味だ。まあ、完全な意味での死亡には数秒、もしくは数分をかけたかもしれん。だがいずれにせよ、自らの意志で何かの行動を取ることは完全に不可能であった。その意味において即死と断言できる。
ここまでは古典の確認だ。お前との密室対決はここからだぜ。犯人は内側にいないなら外にいる。そして外からどうにかして彼らを殺したんだ。
Or a suicide case if the killer is one of the first 6. But if it's not one of the first 6, I guess we can also go this route. In which case, we would need to find out how our killer murdered someone from outside, while the last victim was barricaded in that room. How are we gonna do this? Well...
何を血迷うか。密室イコール外部からの殺害は不可能であろうが、故に魔法殺人しかありえない。
いいや違うね。 殺人は現に起こったイコール密室ではないが正しいのさ。お前がどう煙に巻こうと、これは断じて密室じゃない。密室に見えるだけのまがいものだ。
しかしバトラス様、室内には犠牲者しかおらず、それ以外の人物は室内には存在しておりません。そしてお嬢様の密室定義により、外部からの遠隔殺人も明確に否定されておりますよ。
待ちな。遠隔殺人の定義は広大だぜ。何も部屋の外から釣り糸を引っ張って室内の犠牲者を絞め殺したとか、そんなのばかりじゃねえ。例えばトラップだって立派な遠隔殺人だ。
トラップ？
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, we surely haven't denied that yet. We haven't denied it. And I guess it doesn't technically deny the definition of a locked room, so... What you got, Beatrice?
ほう、それは何か。
一例だが、彼らにあらかじめ決められた部屋に入り、内側から施錠して自ら密室を作り出すように指示を出す。そして室内には彼らがそれとは知らないトラップが仕掛けられており、それによって彼らは殺された。どうだ、これなら矛盾は生じない。
問題ありません。現状と整合します。
当方も問題ありませんよ。お嬢様の密室定義にも抵触しません。
なんだその間抜けな推理は。いずれの室内にも不審なものは発見されなかったぞ。そのトラップはどのような形状なのか、どこに隠してあってどう作動したというのか、それを6人分、客間、客室、控室、貴賓室、ボイラー室、礼拝堂の6つで説明してみせよ。どうだ、できまい。
反論拒否。それを説明する必要はねえ。
True. I mean, why do we have to prove that? I mean, this is devil's proof. You're the one that should prove to us that traps did not exist at all.
にもかかわらず、俺の主張は揺るがない。
なんだと？
Yeah, get out of here with that persecution crap. Just prove yourself that traps do not exist. Give us the red already. Why do we have to prove our own theories this time?
ベアトリーチェ、悪魔の証明ですよ。そのトラップの形状を説明できないことがすなわちトラップ否定の理由にはなり得ない。
うまい。強引ながら見事な一手です。
If only I could use that move a lot more in Japanifornia. If only I could use that a lot more, but sadly that is in the twisted logic department, and we definitely cannot use that. Sadly.
こいつすっかり手慣れおって。
チェック。発見できていない殺人トラップ X により、この密室殺人は成立可能だ。
赤き真実にてそのチェックを切る。6人はトラップで殺されてはいない。
Well, there goes that possibility. In which case...
トラップの定義は
あれだ。
Ah, okay. We can check Beatrice's definition of a trap and see if I can find a weak point in that. Good thinking, Mother.
犠牲者が勝手に引っかかって発動するやつとかだ。
Something that activates when a victim gets caught in it by their own actions. Well, in that case, how about traps that activate whenever the killer wants? Not necessarily when the victim steps on it.
それだけじゃない。 リモコンで発動するとかタイマーで発動するとか、そういうのもろもろ全部含めたやつだ。
Okay, in which case... In which case? In which case? In which case?
仕掛け人が直接関与することなしに殺人を遂行できる全ての仕掛けという定義でよろしいかと思いますよ。
どうだ、切り返したぞ。人間にこの密室が破れてたまるか。
お前も勝つために必死だな。
何？どういう意味だ。
お前は自分の存在を俺に認めさせようと必死に戦ってる。今まで俺は一方的にお前にいじられてるだけだと思ってた。しかし実際は違った。お前もまた俺の切り返しに必死に抗い自分の存在を示そうと戦っている。俺はよ、今ようやく実感してるぜ。
This isn't torture inflicted on me about whether I'll submit or not.
俺とお前の対等な戦いなんだ。さて、面白くなってきたぜ。6人は密室で死に、部外者は中に誰もいない。そして外部からはちょっかいは一切出せず、これまでの俺だったらこれはもう魔法の仕業しかありえねえだろうと思うだろうよ。このタイミングでお前におかしな魔法を実演されたら、そりゃ屈服もしてただろうさ。これがお前の得意戦術だ。俺の指し手を全て迎撃しきり、俺が万策尽きたと膝をつく。心の防御力が弱るその瞬間に、これ見よがしにおかしな魔法を見せつけて一気に勝負を持っていく。
昔から短気な性分で勝ちの目が見えると焦る悪い癖は相変わらずです。
お嬢様はお預けができない性分ですから。
うるさいうるさいぞ。バトラの手番であるぞ。そなたが進めたトラップの駒はわらわが赤にて切り捨てた。次は何を繰り出すのか、存分に来るがよい。
おっ
Alright, well... Honestly, I cannot seem to find anything else in regards to how our killer used a trap. Like, unless there is something that I'm missing in the definition or there is some other possibility, there is still the suicide case, or a different possibility that I am not aware of, so...
トラップまで潰され、一見こいつは完全な密室犯罪に見える。だからこそここでチェス盤をひっくり返すぜ。
Flip the chessboard!
来た、そなたの得意技よ。何をどうひっくり返せるというのか、見せてみろ。
Right on! やっとリーチ！
ああ、見せてやる。いかにして密室の中の6人を外から殺すかを考えるんじゃない。ああ、ダメだダメだ、全然ダメだ。そうさ、どうやって外から殺すかじゃない、どうやって中で死んで密室にするかなんだ。そうさ、これが答えなのさ。犠牲者6人の中に犯人が含まれていたと考えれば、この密室は極めて容易に説明できる。
Yeah, there you go. Okay, let's go with the suicide possibility in that case. Let's see if this is our ticket out of here. Bring it on, Beato!
何？バカな。その6人は死んだとはっきりわらわは赤で言ったはず。
死んだのは6人。犠牲者は殺された5人。もう1人は自殺だったと仮定すれば、この密室は打ち破れる。
確かに犯人が最後の密室に自ら入って施錠し、自らの命を絶てばこの連鎖密室は成立します。
犯人の自殺。
Heh? Knew that my killing game experiences would be put to good use. Thank you, Queen of Despair.
普通では考えられない一手ですが、考えられないから存在しないは存在しない。そしてその動機を立証する義務は彼にない。魔女とのチェスでしか使えない実に力強い一手。
Yeah, I think you're exaggerating on that one, but hey, who am I to complain? He certainly makes me feel good now.
まあ動機がないとは言い切れませんね。例えば金蔵は余命があとわずかと宣告されています。残りわずかの生を惜しまず自らの死をメッセージとしたという動機づけも不可能ではないかもしれません。お嬢様、こちらの手番ですよ。
まさか死者の尊厳を踏みにじってまで犯人を生み出してくるとはな。こやつ血も涙もない男よ。
死者を犯人に仕立て上げるこの非道なる一手は前回のゲームでお前がカノン君を陥れた一手だ。
Got you there, Battle.
この手でお前に一矢報いることがゲームは異なるがあの時のカノン君への手向けだ。今俺はあの時のカノン君の無念を晴らした。
Yay! Alright, Battle, spill the beans. Try to deny argument with Red. I dare you.
ここで手を休める義理はありませんよ。全員の死因が自殺でないことを確認すべきです。副将の要求を推奨します。
ああ、だが自殺なんて甘い言い方じゃ追い詰められねえぜ。ベアト、こいつで詰めだ。副将要求6人は全員他殺である。
これは痛いですね。
ああ、どうしたよ。6人が殺されたんだろう。最も単純な一番最初の前提の確認でしかないぜ。復唱できねえのか。
復唱を拒否する。理由は特にない。
That is because it is the truth. There is no reason for you to use the red truth later. I mean, you can just say it right now and shut us up for good. But you cannot. You definitely cannot. Say that I'm wrong. I double dare ya with an extra dose of milk.
ここでの復唱拒否はリザインと同じ意味だぜ。チェックメイト。6人の中に犯人がいて密室構築後に自殺を図った。以上だ。
待って。いや、その言う望み通り赤を行使するぞ。
Huh?
6人は誰も自殺していない。
What? So you can say it? What the hell? And more importantly, why were you so hesitant in saying it? Unless there is something else on top of the suicide case.
どうだ、これで満足か。
We're not satisfied yet.
切り返したぞ、切り返した。
なんだよ、言えるじゃねえかよ。だがおかしいな。なんであんなに狼狽してるんだ。
気のせいよ。
No, it's not. There is something else. But question is, what is it? The suicide case would finish the last locked room like really well, so I wonder.
わらわも今回は必死でな。そうそう心にゆとりもないのだ。深く気にするでない。
要求した副将が改ざんされていますよ。
Huh?
ごまかされないように。
Oh! That's right! She did say it differently. Damn it. Okay, so yeah. Bella requested that all 6 deaths were all homicide. But Beato said that none of the 6 committed suicide. Wait, hold on a second. Hold on. What is your definition of the suicide? What is your definition of suicide, Beatrice? Is there a weak point in your definition that we are not aware of? That or...
ダメみたいですよ、お嬢様。
そうか。6人全員他殺とは言ってない。6人全員自殺にあらずとこいつは言い換えた。ということは他殺でも自殺でもない人間が混じっているということだ。
Not killed by someone and didn't commit suicide. I mean, what the hell does that mean? I mean, what else could it be other than one of these two? Wait. Again, going with the idea that the definition has something for us. Could it be that... Hold on. Could it be that the definition for suicide is like this? Like... the act of someone killing themselves of their own free will. What if it is not of their own free will? They were forced to kill themselves by their killer. Could this be it? Is the definition our loophole? Like, somewhere between getting killed and committing suicide?
ああ、わかったぜ、わかったわかった。これが真相だ。6人の中に潜む犯人 X は5人を殺害後密室を構築した。そしてそこから何かの方法で逃れるか隠れるかするつもりだったんだ。ところが事故った。本人すらも想定しない理由により事故死し、自ら望まない密室殺人を構築したんだ。
What? What? An accident?
これで決まりだぜ、ベアトリーチェ。チェックメイトだ。
その程度でわらわが追い詰められると思うか。この程度でリザインを叫ぶものか。その愚かなチェックメイト、わらわの赤き宝刀にて何度でも叩き切ってくれようぞ。6人の中に事故死は
Keanu? What are you doing?
失礼。当方、ここで作戦タイムを所望いたします。しばしのご猶予をお許しください。
正当な要求です。問題ないかと。
おう、強化するぜ。
An accident. Well, that is a new one. But then Beatrice was going to say it in red until Ronoya stopped her and requested a recess. Was it that Beatrice was starting to lose control there, or what? Was she gonna do a fatal mistake when she was going to say her red?
俺も今まで散々そいつをもらってる。今度はお前がそれを使う番だぜ。
ありがとうございます。さあお嬢様、こちらへ。そして心の中で静かに数字を100数えましょう。
As Beato grew thoroughly panicked and agitated, Ronoya had quickly covered her mouth with his hand and suspended the game. He then pulled Beato away in the name of a strategy conference.
あの悪魔の執事め。
Felt like I was going through an entire class trial there. But yeah, I guess I should have expected that a suicide case would have been pretty easy to deduce, so it must be something else, but an accident. Can't say that I ever met that kind of situation. I mean, at least I don't think I did. I mean, how would it even be possible in this case?
ベアトが熱くなってる今が追い込む絶好のチャンスだったんだが。
Like, the only way I can see this happen is if Kinzo accidentally threw himself into the incinerator and died. Like, when he didn't want to. I mean, he clearly isn't stable. He was probably having another one of his breakdowns, and that led to his death. That would be an explanation. Bato normally behaves elegantly, but she actually has a really short temper and gets mad easily. However, what if Bato was gonna use her red there? Like, she would have denied our possibility of an accident in that case, and then what? I mean, we won't know until we resume our trial, but I mean, our debate here, see what is gonna happen next. I have to wonder. Her normal intelligence falls silent when she starts getting agitated.
ロノウェは冷静ですね。
Battler, you are good. You are very good, Battler. Are you actually a detective and I'm not aware of it? Or you just read a lot of murder mysteries? I mean, jeez. You acted pretty damn... You were pretty good, Daryl. An accident. Wow.
おそらくあの子に頭を冷やす時間を与えたのでしょう。あの子はあなたのチェックを外すことに意地になり、いくつかの大駒をやすやすと見捨てようとしていた。第一の番など、所詮は前哨戦。あの子は引き際を誤りかけた。
つまり、どういうことだよ。俺のチェックメイトは成立したのかしないのか。
あの子は赤を宣言しかけていました。チェックメイトにはまだならないでしょう。しかしおそらく頭を冷やしたあの子はリザインを宣言するに違いありません。
What? Tell me that she has the power to say in the red and shut us up for good. Like maybe even achieve victory at that point. And yet, she would much prefer to resign and let us win? How?
まさか、あの負けず嫌いがか？
ええ。負け戦は1秒でも早く兵を引き上げ、いかに損失を減らすかが肝要です。難しいのは、それが負け戦であるかどうかを測ること。
I guess so. I guess that means that there's something that we're still not aware of. Beatrice has some sort of secret weapon that, if used wrong, she might have achieved victory, but she didn't. She originally doesn't want to use that secret weapon this early on. I mean, there's also that possibility.
あの子の執事はそれを冷静に判断したようです。
やれやれ。つまり、あと一息のところで逃げられたってわけだな。ビシッと。俺がチェックメイトを決めて、とどめを刺すって流れには、簡単。
でも、これはあなたの勝ちだと判断してよいでしょう。向こうはギリギリで大きな損失を踏みとどまったようですが、それでもかなりのダメージを与えたに違いありません。その傷の深さはあの子の狼狽ぶりから十分理解できたはずですよ。
だな。
I guess so. I mean, it seems that no matter what the case is, it would seem that we're going with the option that one of the 6 first dead was the killer. I mean, that seems to be the path that we're going with, no matter the situation. I think.
これ以上いじめたら泣き出しちまいそうだぜ。
As we talked, Noby returned with Bato, who wore a meek expression. She didn't have the same bold smile as usual, but it looked like the blood wasn't rushing to her head anymore.
よう。
Yo!
お前の手番だぜ。次の一手は決まったかよ。
デザインだ。この場はお前に勝ちを譲る。
Bato told me that frankly. It seemed as though she had taken a far-sighted view, as though saying, if you want to laugh, then laugh. He was a bit of a buzzkill, and I lost my desire to attack her further.
ま、お前がデザインしたってのは結局のところ俺の説もお前の説も互いが相手を否定できないイーブンって意味だからな。負けってよりは引き分けって意味で受け取っとくぜ。
気持ち悪い同情などいらぬわ。この場はわらわの負けだと言っておる。そなたには雨に濡れた犬をさらに棒で叩く趣味があるというのか。
ねえよ。お前と違ってな。
Got you there, Bato. I mean, yeah, we surely are feeling good about it, making it this far. I mean, we made some pretty good progress over here with our arguments, but it's not like we are stating in red that you are incompetent or anything like that. Granted, I cannot say that I'm a saint either, though, so... Apologies, Beatrice. Even though she ridiculed me horribly when I showed signs of defeat, she was so pathetic when it was her turn. I thought of her as a pretty unfair person, but I decided to act with dignity as a winner and accepted it. Bato had resigned. And that was the only result of the first twilight. Beatrice couldn't counter my move of one of the 6 was the culprit, and that person died in an accident. So, no. She probably could have countered it, but because of some strategic decision, she had given up. It felt less like I had won, and more like she had escaped me one step from victory. Well, it is better than being completely demolished. We made some good arguments there. In Chess Against Witches, it is possible to battle onwards solely using pieces called X, which don't need explanation. Thanks to the Devil's Proof, I can create as many strange fictions as I want, and use them to fight in the argument. But that's only within the context of a chess with a witch. In our human world, such an abstract story cannot explain anything. Yeah, you definitely tried that in a court of law. See how that works. The first twilight today was a chain of 6 locked rooms. It certainly may be possible for a human. Bato hadn't been able to completely deny everything. However, I don't have a clue who committed the crime, why, and how they actually did it. And something tells me that it's gonna be much harder than what we've gone through here today. And that's probably gonna be for a completely different day. Who could have done it? Who could have done it? I shouldn't say this having won, but I get the feeling that I would have felt less muddled if I had just been told right out by Beatrice that it was completely impossible for a human. Although I hide behind these abstract pieces called X, I couldn't deny that some kind of unthinkable, creepy intention had definitely pervaded this mansion. Homicide cases come in different sizes when it comes to murderers. Masterminds, serial killers, you name it. One interesting criminal that I would like to bring up here is one that I had to face multiple times before coming to Rokkenjima. Dahlia Hawthorne, once called Miss Evil Spirit, the Witch. There is no subtlety when it comes to her. You can tell her true colors from a mile away. She was one tough criminal to beat back in Japanifornia, and most certainly one to remember. However, even for someone like her who has been nothing but a demonic woman who destroyed many people's lives, one could question, what would it have been if she didn't become the monster that she was? That sort of question requires looking at things from a different perspective. One that is not the usual, oh, she is a monster, she must be defeated, the end. Her parents were horrible people, so that surely must have influenced her. At one point, I heard the saying, monsters are not born, they are made by horrible experiences. I wonder at times how much that applies for criminals such as the Queen of Despair, the Cyclops serial killer, the Seesaw killer. Can we say that some of them have also been influenced by horrible experiences that we are not aware of? Or were some of them born with some brain dysfunction? Or were they born demons, if we are to go with a magical interpretation? And that no matter what life they had, it will always conclude in them becoming criminals? For some of them, we partially know the answer. For others though, we may never know. Most of what we have learned about them come from the perspective of the good guys, the heroes of the stories. I have no sympathy for Dahlia, but it is interesting to think of the what if. Now, when it comes to the other witch of the day, you have Beatrice. At this point in time, some of her past has been revealed, and there are hints here and there that tells us of something tragic that happened with her when it comes to her past with Kinzo. If you are to look at her record to this point alone, one could say that she is the biggest criminal I have ever faced. Period. So, by that logic, one could say that sympathy would be out of the question, right? Well, once again, comes the eternal battle of logic versus belief. I have never encountered something like this. At least, as far as I'm aware, I don't think I have. I think that the closest example I can offer of experiencing something like this is jumping from an alternate timeline to another. That I am no stranger to, but can I really view it like that? Virgilia said that at this point, two truths can coexist, that two roads can coexist, the magical side and the scientific side, as if, well, they are their own alternate universes. In similar fashion to how Virgilia explained it, as far as I can understand it, they do indeed may exist on their own, in which there wouldn't be any case of questioning the authenticity of magic, since it is not the alternate universe that I should be focusing on, but instead I should be focusing on my own universe, that of the science, of the human tricks. However, if I were to look into the brown tube, she says that one truth will come out of it, that the two truths that come out of the prosecutor and the defense attorney will become one once the judge makes the decision. So, we have to question the authenticity of magic in order to prove that our scientific claim is the truth, right? When it comes to multiple alternate universes, like alternate timelines, you don't question their authenticity, because They are the result of any changes that happen in the world, like the many worlds interpretation, the butterfly effect, that sort of stuff. So why should I question a different alternate timeline when I can just sit in my own timeline all safe and cozy and analyze my own situation? No, I guess there have been exceptions. In which case, maybe I have been put in a situation like this before? It's just that I didn't see it the way I see it right now. Like, I don't know. Alright, well. In which case, there are two options to choose from here. Either I choose to focus on my own human trick interpretation and completely ignore the magic claim, act as if nothing happened and go back to square one when it comes to the way I view the people on this island. Or the second option is to focus on my own human trick interpretation, but also analyze Beatrice's magic claim to determine what is true and what is fake. And from that, I can use the information that I gather to help me create my scientific interpretation. And through that, hopefully determine the common truth between the two claims. The second option sure is a difficult one. I mean, I already have enough mysteries on my back to get rid of, and now I have this. It's like I'm trying to climb a mountain, but after each step forward, I make 2 steps back, and end up at the bottom of the ocean instead. Alright. I'm gonna act as if I'm starting a new year. Like when you try and solve a math problem. Like when you don't know what the problem is, you just erase everything and start calculations again. So, what can I start with? Well, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to answer this right now. Like if I'm gonna find the solution to this, but I guess I can start off with this question. How does Beatrice's magic claim work? How is she creating them? Is it in real time? Or does she prepare them beforehand? And I think I'm gonna use the scene with Shannon and Beatrice in the second game for that one. More specifically, when Beatrice got really angry at Shannon and unleashed her furious anger, and they will know her name is the Lord when she lay vengeance upon thee. The way Beatrice had her breakdown there was very questionable as well. I mean, I talked about this before, and how I was already questioning the events of that battle, and how her breakdown may be her weak point as well. That she's cocky and such. So, let's look at it this way. There are 2 options over here. One, it is that the magical scene happened in real time, like a live stream. In this scenario, everything is happening in real time, and the events are merely coded in magic, whereas everything else is real, even from a humanistic interpretation, like their actions and their feelings. After that scene happened, you cannot go back to change it. It is there and it will always be there.
Fucking fuck!
What this means is that what happened with Beatrice there is real. In this scenario, either she intentionally raged at Shannon the way she did to send us a message that she was trying to tell us something with her breakdown, or she didn't intend on getting that angry at Shannon and made an oopsie poopsie. Like, whatever the case is for that, what all this means is that if it all happened in real time, then the actions and feelings of the humans are the same as when we try to make our scientific claim. It's just that things happen in a different way. For example, Shannon was trying to protect George from a completely different killer, and they were both killed by said killer in their last moments of love towards one another. Now that is something that really eases my soul, if that is the case. However, there is the second option that we have to take into account. that the magical scene was, to put it simply, heavily edited. Think of what the process is for making a video. You put the video feed here, put the voice audio track here, synchronize the two, then put the Beatrice here, and voila, magic. However, Beatrice has the power to change anything here. For example, she can just change the voice audio track to say something else. Or instead of showing up like her usual self, she comes in with a moustache. In which case, everything can be changed. And she intentionally left in her breakdown that, just like in the first option, she intentionally raged at Shannon the way she did to send us a message, telling us something with this. Now, in this case, anything can be fake here, including the actions and emotions of Shannon and George. Now that is an option that is more on the sad side, since not only do I have to question Shannon's and George's feelings at that point, but it is much harder to determine what is real and what is not. Now, which option is it? That I do not know. I mean, I most certainly prefer the first option, but it can very well be the second option as well. However, there is a common ground here. A common truth when it comes to both interpretations. Beatrice's feelings when the rage happened, they are real. Whether it was unintentional or intentional, it happens with both options. Like, no matter how Beatrice did her magic claim, she tried to send us a message with that, of some sorts. So, I have to wonder. Alright, will you knock it off already? I'm not in the mood for your spooky antics now.
My. Is that how you treat an old friend of yours? Noby Gurando?
Nefarious.
Now what is this I'm hearing here? Do my non-existent ears deceive me? Or are you actually starting to believe in the Endless Witch more than the humans?
Okay, I know where you're going with this, so I'm just gonna stop you right there. I'm only thinking here in the context of that battle alone, Nefarious.
True enough. But then what? What would you have done with that piece of information you have gathered? I tell you what, you would reaffirm that something tragic indeed happened before. But how is that gonna help you in determining the authenticity of the human feelings? In fact, I'd say that piece of information only makes things worse. Your job is to deny magic and witches, right? So believing Beatrice's feelings does the exact opposite. Hell, you seem to believe in Virgilia pretty damn well as of late. You're supposed to believe in humans, not witches. Isn't that right? Let's assess the situation. You are confused. Your emotions have been toyed with by Beatrice's magic claim. So what do? You use logic to try and control the chaos within your heart.
Alright, I get your point. I guess I indeed have been having mixed feelings in regards to this whole thing. There is an easier route that I can take. To take a leap of faith and believe in the feelings and actions of the humans, like no matter what.
The eternal battle of logic and belief. You remember it well, don't you? Of course you do. However, you better hurry. The time when you will need to make the decisions will come soon, and the epitaph won't be sold by itself after all. Tick-tock, Mr. Grand. Time is ticking, and the terror of Rokkenjima will come soon.